Getting everything settled here. Welcome back to another European Watch Company Horological Happy Hour. Today on Thursday instead of Friday. We just couldn't wait to hang out with you guys. So, as usual, Rob and I picked 6 of the more interesting pieces that came in this past week that we were kind of excited about, that we wanted to share with you guys. Obviously, this is stuff that just came in. There'll be a few pieces that are actually available on our website. We'll make sure we call that out. But if you don't see something on our site that we talk about, it is going to be live soon. So keep checking our website. Watch the site, shoot us an email, shoot us a text, and throughout the live as well, if you guys have any pieces that you want us to pull out of the safe to kind of talk about, to show you in a little more detail or whatever, feel free to pop a comment in the chat on either YouTube or Instagram, and we will have producer Craig run around. We'll have him run up to the safe, get those pieces, and we will make sure that we talk about them. So bear with us for 1 second while we kind of finalize getting everything.
We are setting up. It looks like we have our watch cam set for Instagram. So Instagram, let us know if you can see those. I should have everything muted, so we should be good sound-wise. Let me know what you're seeing.
I don't have...
We are a little...
David, are we live on that Instagram?
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
We are a little squashed on YouTube,
Yeah,
but we're working on that.
All right. Sorry, guys.
Software and technology is the greatest thing in the world, but...
While we, there we go. I got it now. All right. Hey, Rob. Cheers. Oh, yeah. We went real classy this week.
We did.
Rob's got some Gansett. I've got the old classic PBR. Oh, here we go.
This is very New England, if you don't know, out of Rhode Island.
All right.
Brought to us this week by our fellow Rhode Islander.
It's true. Wow, that tastes like college.
Tastes like college.
All right.
Awesome.
Why don't we jump right in? Like I said, we grabbed 6 pieces that we thought were, interesting, exciting, that we wanted to chat about. We lost our second camera, so we're gonna get that back on Instagram. No, it's okay. We're rolling, but we're trying to add in the extra camera so that we can have the close-ups for. No, it's not. It's okay.
It kicked me out here. I requested again. So make sure that gets me in.
Allow it. All right. Let's go.
There we go. Coming up.
There we
Let's
go.
do it.
All right.
So, that's not your watch.
Which one?
That one.
Oh, you mean this whole thing here?
This old thing? Shaw?
All right, fine. I'll give it back to you. We're going to start with something that, I am ridiculously excited to talk about here. I'll trade you for my actual watch, please.
This is the whole reason Justin wore short sleeves.
Yeah,
rolled up his sleeves was for that gag.
Had to show it off. So we are starting off with the Cartier Pebble. So this is a Privé collection release from 2022 based on a vintage design from the early 70s. I believe it was 1972. It's a London Cartier design. So, around the same time that Cartier was making the Crash, mid to late 60s, this is from the early 70s. This came out of the same workshop. So the London workshop is also where the Crash came out of. So, just a really, really interesting piece. 36 millimeter yellow gold case, super thin. I think it's like 6.5 millimeters thick or something.
The camera can't even focus on it because there's not enough material there for you to see.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're working on this aspect ratio thing. It looks like, unfortunately for YouTube, it's like a little squashed. But it's, it's not bad.
So anyways,
it looks a little oblong.
The Cartier, limited edition of 150 total pieces. It was basically sold out as soon as they announced it. I believe MSRP was like 40, 45K, something like that. But just incredibly unique with that, round case with that square dial and crystal. It's like a UFO on your wrist. It's
the lack of lugs.
Yep.
Is the best part. Can you hand me the cloth?
Yeah, of course.
Got some
the one thing that I kind of wish about this is
rack.
that the strap tapered a little bit, but the vintage piece, it also had that real thick, that wide strap as well.
Cartier often doesn't taper though, because if you think about the tanks have a very straight strap on them, and I feel like that actually works for what it is.
Yeah.
And for something like this where there's no lugs, I like it.
It totally works.
Taper.
I would sell a kidney for that thing. It's amazing. So not even arguably, the original Pebble is rarer than the Crash. They made there are roughly six known large pebbles, and I believe 2 of them are owned by Cartier, which they actually used to create this design.
So there's 4 in the wild.
Something like that, yeah. Just incredibly rare, such a unique look, so special. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. Are you jumping away from the Cartier already?
I'm just putting something there because otherwise it's just blue business. I could put the Cartier there for the Instagram people.
But I mean, also too, so manual lined. It has a 38-hour power reserve, which is actually pretty impressive for something that thin. There we go. Ooh, that looks very nice. Look at that on that. That looks beautiful. Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. Well-established Cartier.
So the old one.
Yep.
Those were probably like made by one of the Cartier jewelers, right? Like sitting there at a bench making a watch.
Yes, it was made. So it was the London workshop, which was above, the Bond Street location. Yeah, it was literally handmade, in the workshop in London. In
like
the
Gilbert
70s.
Albert style, like
Exactly.
this. And that's where I think a lot of people think about Cartier as a jeweler more than a watchmaker. And you get a lot of people who are like, Cartier is great, but it's not like a watchmaker's watch. It's not a Jaeger. It's not an AP.
Sure.
Something like that. Oh, were we getting that going? I forgot to mute it when we joined back on. Sorry people. But I think when you look at Cartiers like this, and you look at the Crash, and you look at the Cloche, and all of these things, like maybe they're not making a movement. Maybe they're not doing this, which we'll get to in a second. And like making something with all of the complications. But is that not watchmaking?
But they're making up for it.
Is that not watchmaking?
100% it is. They're making up for it in a completely different, a different way. It's just as interesting and just as special as, say, something like this that is crazy complicated.
Right.
Because it is so unique and there are so few of them in the world. And it's just an incredible piece.
And it's the small details, too, of like, hopefully you guys can see the way the Romans at the corners, they almost like melt, like Salvador Dali style. They like melt around the railroad track there, and like that's probably my favorite detail. I mean, that's just incredible.
It's just so distinctive. There's nothing else like that in the watch world.
Retail was expensive.
Retail was only like 40, 45K.
I thought it was close to 50. But still, for this, I feel like that's a lot.
Last time I checked, 45 was close to 50.
It's close to 50. I thought it was 53 or something. No. But anyway, that's a lot for this. That's my only problem with this. I feel like that's really very expensive.
I don't think so, honestly. For what you're getting, for the limited nature of it, 150 pieces, with incredible history and incredible kind of pedigree, and just all of that design, it's stunning. I mean, you're paying, instead of paying for technical engineer, horological engineering, you're paying for incredible design and exclusivity. So I get it. I think 45K seems very reasonable. I did see Hidden Horology asking you share the price of the Pebble. It hasn't been priced yet. Suffice it to say, it's going to be far above $45,000. I believe one just sold at auction within the past month or two for in the 120 range, something like that. So it's going to be a 6-figure plus piece.
Yeah, I mean, and when, like you said, when you think about it within the spectrum of Cartier and how special this is, it makes sense.
Yeah.
To me, like in secondary market price, I totally understand because that becomes a different model than the retail. I feel like retail Cartier went too high, but I don't know. Maybe there was more into making this than it seems.
I think Cartier just knew, just from their recent privé releases, how popular they've been, especially look at like the London Crash, the reissue for the new Bond Street
but that's very interesting because you can look at the cloches and the asymmetric and the chinois, which in my opinion are all fantastic watches. I would love to wear any of them. But they haven't done quite as well as like the Crash and
on the secondary market, from retail, those
even
all
that
sold
Cintre,
out
even that 100th anniversary Cintre, it's still strong, it's still good demand. Ours went on hold as soon as we put it on the website.
Yeah, people are looking for them.
But it's just interesting. It's interesting to look at that and to look at Cartier as a watchmaker, which I think people should.
Well, 100% they should.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So super excited about that one. Keep an eye on our website. That will be up there in the next week or so, 2 weeks, something like that. We're also working on a more in-depth blog post about this particular piece. So we'll have all kinds of fun stuff coming about this. I will leave it on the tray and not put it back on my wrist, even though I really, really want to. So what's up next?
All right. Keeping with our theme of simple yet complicated, we go to Laurent Ferrier, and I think we had a Ferrier on last week as well, or maybe the week before. I remember talking about dry escapements and things of that nature. So this is a Gallet Square with the micro rotor automatic, which obviously is a fantastic caliber. You know, watchmaking, a guy who came from Patek, and obviously that shows in his watches and in the way he makes them. But I think he also has a really nice kind of touch and flair that's all his own.
So we've talked about this before, where Ferrier was essentially the head of horological development at Patek before there was such a thing as the Advanced Research Department. He, left, obviously, created his own company, so his movements are, beautiful, just incredibly engineered, advanced. This is that natural dry escapement with that micro rotor, so very unusual movement, in the world of horology. And, Laurent Ferrier kind of has an interesting story, an interesting history as well. He raced at Le Mans. One of the recent, I believe it was the Sport Auto that he did, came with a model of the car that he raced in the 70s at Le Mans. So the guy has some serious flair, and it's very clear with that green, super vibrant green California dial, vintage tone loom, really just it feels special. And what's weird too? So this is...
So hold on. What is a California dial?
I was going to say, okay, so if you'll notice in the close-up here, Robert, you'll see that there are Roman numerals on half the dial, and there are Arabic numerals on the other half of the dial. It's hard to tell from a distance.
And they're very skinny.
Yeah.
And they're very this Art Deco-y style.
Mm-hmm. So you have Arabics, I believe, on the lower half, correct? And Roman numerals on the top half, which is, distinct. That is called a California dial. I honestly have no idea. Do you have any idea why that is?
So I've heard stories, especially in terms of the most famous, I think, is Panerai with their California dials. The story I've heard, which is probably apocryphal, is that it was a sample dial that they created for retailers. It's not here. I think it's coming from there. Okay. Sorry, we've got a very small echo that we've had, and we can't figure it out.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's okay. I've heard that it was a sample dial that was made for retailers so that they could show customers the option of ordering it with a Roman dial or an Arabic dial. However,
Really?
I have never seen a Roman dial Panerai. So that's why I say I believe that story to be apocryphal.
If anybody actually knows or can fool us and has a good story about why that's called the California dial,
we'll take both.
Throw it in the chat. I'm gonna look while Rob goes and looks at the next the next piece here.
But just to finish on this, I think it is a very cool, very quirky kind of thing. The cushion case is very nice, a little bit 70s-esque on that one. Beautiful handset, little vintage tone on the loom, which of course is a little bit controversial. But in this case, I think if you just look at it as purely aesthetics of the green against the cream, really pretty.
So, and I was going to say, so this is a 41 mil case, I believe. Let me look at my notes real quick. Yeah, 41 millimeter case, which is, for me, that's generally very large, but this wears incredibly well. It's very
super
thin. I don't have the thickness written down, but the other part about this is a limited piece. It's 8 total pieces, which is crazy.
You know what, though? It's not just the thickness at play here, because I bet you this... There we are. Oh, the camera's having a seizure. It doesn't like it when I try to show the thickness there, but I can show it to you folks on Instagram. It's not just the thickness, it's the geometry too, because the lugs come down.
They're very short.
A lot. Mm-hmm. They're very short, and they turn down a good bit from the case, and the case has... It almost appears to curve when you put it on the wrist. So when you have this on the wrist, once again, I'm going to try my best to show it, but it almost feels like it curves onto the wrist like the Cintre last week. It's really beautiful. And it's in steel.
Yep.
which is cool too because it's like everyday wearability. It's lightweight. It's comfortable. His nice Alcantara lined strap and everything. Cool watch.
Under
Very
the radar,
cool. Just came in today.
Yep.
Like this is fresh off the boat.
Yeah, it came in and we immediately clocked that one as one that we wanted to talk about. It's super cool. Craig, anything on the chat over there yet?
Not on YouTube.
I'm not seeing anything on YouTube, but it looks like Instagram is fairly active.
Yeah, yep. People just commenting, saying that the Roman numerals are similar to the California dial on many Panerais, which is.
I think there's some bubble backs with California
There are
dials
actually,
too.
yeah.
But I'm so leery of what's original and what's not with those bubble backs.
Yeah.
Because if you have a watch from the 40s and somebody changed the dial or put a custom dial on in the 70s or the 80s, it's gonna look old by now too. So it's like.
Yeah, who knows?
And Rolex doesn't keep records like Patek does or something.
Those have all been messed with, and
exactly
none of them are original. That's okay.
Either way, again, to me, cool aesthetic.
Yeah.
Whether there's any historical significance there or not, I dig it.
Yeah, I don't really care. It just looks cool.
California. All right, your turn.
All right, let's jump to. Why don't we go with this guy? Because how can we not talk about that?
The big guns.
So we were affectionately calling this the AP Jules Audemars Turbo Ding Ding. So here we have an AP Jules Audemars minute repeater tourbillon chronograph. So it has every single. Oh, you know what? Is that wound, Rob? We should absolutely.
It is running.
Okay, so hit that minute.
You hear that?
You got to show off the repeater aspect of this.
Yes, we will get really quiet and do that in a second.
It just has everything you could possibly want, all in that single package. So, want to play a little game. If you guys are watching, we would like you to guess what you think the MSRP, so the original retail price of this piece was. Rob, do you know actually when this piece was introduced? Roughly, any idea?
If I had to guess, actually, do we have a traditional? We have an F serial on here. So what is F for AP?
That I don't know. I'm not good with AP serials.
I feel like that's a good 15 years ago. Producer Craig is furiously Googling.
The aesthetic definitely screams early aughts to me.
So Jules Audemars is no more. Probably both the person and the series. The AP now obviously has introduced the code 1159 as their kind of dress-ish watch alternative to the Royal Oak. So we don't see the Jules Audemars in production anymore. But this they had run the full gamut with this series. They had simple time onlys all the way up through some serious grand complications, such as this one we have here.
Okay, so sorry, Nova DPG says F is around 0506 if you recall
0506.
correctly. So we were right there. Thank you for confirming.
Well, I guess that's almost 20 years ago. We're getting close to 20 years ago. But this obviously would have been one of the top of the line offerings here. We also have currently the chronograph tourbillon without the repeater. So if you're like, man, I love that watch, but that's just way too much going on. I'd love to get a little bit simpler. We do have that as well, and you still get that beautiful spinning turby.
So details on this one though. So 42 millimeter rose gold case, and what I think is the most impressive piece, it's 12.5 millimeters thick. So we just talked about how hard it is to show thickness off on these cameras, but 12.5 millimeters is essentially a sub, a little more than a sub, and this is a minute repeater.
Oh, maybe I got it now.
Oh, there you go, with your hand behind. Nice.
That might be
minute
the
repeater tourbillon chronograph. So two monster complications and a chronograph all in a 12.5 millimeter thick case. So it's 42 mil is a decent size, but it actually, because it is nice and slim, it sits nicely on the wrist.
This couldn't be any smaller too, which I always appreciate. Like if you look, that tourbillon is right at the bottom of that dial.
Yep.
There was no room for them. It's not like they made it big for the sake of making it big, which
correct.
always bothers me.
Right. This is clearly, the case is perfectly fitted to that movement, which is a caliber 2874, which has a 60-hour power reserve as well, which is, again, very impressive for something with this much complication packed into one piece,
The dial guilloche is really, really nice.
Gorgeous. That kind of like spiral pattern. It's really, really
like
beautiful.
radial with an arc to it. And then that contrasting subdial, which makes me think of a datograph, like the silver sub on
My one complaint on this is that that guilloche on the dial is so beautiful, and then you have this random white subdial and the white chrono hand. That drives me nuts. I wish it was just rose gold. I don't know. It's, I can't have it all, I guess. I can have a minute repeater, tourbillon, and chrono, but I can't have it all. We have some guesses on prices here. So
while we let a couple more come in, shall I? I'm gonna try to hold this close to the various mics that we have here, and I'm going to chime this. I hope this comes through on your side.
I don't know. Maybe let us know if you guys heard that. But if you didn't, it sounds amazing.
In the room here, it is surprisingly resonant. The thing with the minute repeater, many people are like, obviously it's a challenging complication to make, but why is there such a jump? Like if you look at Paddocks and you look at they're all the way up to like a 5270 or a 5204, and then when you go to like that plain time only repeater, why is there like 100K jump?
Oh, it's more than way more than that.
No, I'm thinking like the 5178 or whatever it is. But anyway, and part of the thing with that is tuning these gongs, because you've got these tiny little basically sticks of metal that are moving around the movement. I'm going to try and show that to you all because you kind of can see that there are some sticks. Yeah, they're like on the very edge of the movement, and it's actually very cool. If you have this watch in person and you can look in the case, you can almost see underneath the case back there. Sorry, YouTube, that has blurred out completely. I'm just going to switch it back.
Give me what is the stock number on this piece, Rob? So just in case you guys do want to see what we're talking about, because it is hard to show on the cameras, go ahead and look up
49849.
49849 on EuropeanWatch.com. Just search for it, and you'll get all the photos.
Sounds broken on YouTube. I promise it is not. That is the small labs trying to pick up a sound that obviously, again, is surprisingly resonant and very articulate, which we have had some other repeaters which lack that from some other brands. But in terms of like if you're looking at AP, if you're looking at Vacheron, if you're looking at Patek, you're going to get sound quality that is unmatched. And it's the tuning of those gongs that's really, really difficult and really hard to make that loud and vibrant and beautiful.
So back to the original MSRP of this piece. So this was actually, it sold today actually. A client purchased it. This we had listed for $129, I believe. $129.9.
So hold on, give me some guesses. What do we got in here?
So let's see. So Horological Habitat says 350K. Close. Incorrect. Amelia, you can't be serious. Come on. Come on. I'm gonna give you another chance.
She must have left a zero off.
Hidden Horology says 250K. Also incorrect. Not close.
You're sure?
Watch Eater EXE is asking if we have any chicken nuggets. I don't know. I don't, but I would love some if you want to send some our way. That's all I'm seeing here for guesses. Robert, would you care to guess before I reveal the price of the Jules Audemars?
I mean, tourbillon, chronograph, repeater.
Correct. Those are the three things.
It's the 350 to me is really good, but I'm gonna go like 399. I'm gonna say this was a 400K watch.
I will remind you all that this is Audemars Piguet that we're talking about.
But this is also almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, but they've always been
right. But still, like pricing.
Anyways,
because they're
pricing.
Okay.
$447,300. $447,000. $300.
The better part of $500,000.
Crazy. Yeah.
Which
absolutely
20
insane.
years ago was more than $500,000 is now. Like that felt like more money. But no, I'm just saying within the realm of things, that was tremendously expensive.
So, the fact that we had it at $129.9 and like you were saying, something from a repeater, just a simple repeater from Patek is going to be probably twice as much.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
talking
Easily
300K
2-3 times
for
more.
a 5078 or a 5178 where you've got just time and repeater. Do those have turbies?
No, they don't.
Those are not turbies.
No, they're not. Anyways, really, really interesting piece. Not something we see all the time. Really cool to get to play with it. We're fans.
And just one more example of how AP is more than the Royal Oak. Royal Oak is great. Don't get me wrong. It is a beautiful masterpiece. But they've made some stuff that's really worth taking a look at and flies under the radar in terms of market value and market price, because this is worth way more than $125.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Yeah, so Horological Habitat, this piece was $129.9. It actually, like I said, sold today, so no more. What
Too bad, so sad.
do we want to do next? Craig,
So-
producer
Someone
Craig
requested
is
this
asking. Oh, okay,
Before,
cool. What do we got?
A FP Jorn, the Souverain, Havana.
Chrono Souverain Havana. Okay, who requested this? Do we know?
This was on Instagram. My phone's over there.
Oh, sorry. All right, no worries.
I might be able to.
So
My
you
iPad
probably
might
got it
actually.
I
somewhere.
probably have it somewhere. That's okay.
Hold on. Oh, my iPad.
All right,
Yes, I know who it is. Watch Medicine.
cool. All right, Watch Medicine. Here you go.
It's great having all your devices connected.
I'm going to switch this over here. So we have the Jorn Chronometer Souverain Havana. This is the platinum case, rose gold movement, and of course what makes it Havana is that brown guilloche dial. And it's interesting because he does this kind of, it's not really white on the hands and the numbers.
It's like
It's
cream
like a
almost.
cream
Yeah.
color. It's really, really pretty.
This piece was available on our website for $75.9, and it actually looks like it's on hold and pending sale today.
Yeah, I mean these are very cool. We're not seeing very many of these in terms of just Havanas in general from FP Jorn. I'm not sure what his production of these is like in contrast to, say the standard dial pieces. And we constantly are hearing like, oh, it's discontinuing it. It's going to be discontinued.
And then there's another one.
And then it's like the year goes and we keep going. We have lost our overhead camera.
Dave.
But the really beautiful piece. One thing I've always appreciated about these, I'm going to go back to this real quick, is his movement architecture here, because it's a very kind of standard movement in terms of time and power reserve and small seconds. But the way he sets this up with the barrels and then the escapement and then everything else, the whole running train and everything in between the dial and that backplate, it's just very cool. You don't get any kind of visual presentation like that from other brands. So
Hyrac S102704. We're grabbing you a Zeitwerk. We'll show that off in a minute. We have a couple different interesting options actually. So producer Craig just ran out to check on that for you. So thank you for Watch Medicine. Agreed. That's an incredible piece. Super cool.
Yeah.
It just has such a nice. It's just very straightforward, but it's just a little bit more interesting. I don't know. It's so much better than just the plain platinum with the white dial and the blued hands and whatnot. It's just I really like it.
I don't know. I think I would still go for his standard configuration myself,
No.
but I'm old and stodgy in my taste. So, but I do
Yeah,
like
sounds
the
good. Thank
brown. It reminds me very much of the Holland and Holland, which I think is one of the nicest watches he's ever.
The
made.
Holland is
You
absolutely
can't touch it because
incredible.
they're incredibly hard to find now. But,
Well, I mean, and the thing, with Jorns, they're all a little bit unique anyways because they're all, hand finished, handmade.
Yeah.
The Holland and Holland is legitimately every single one
the
is
pattern
unique
on the dial
because
Yeah.
the piece that we're talking about, it's the Chrono Souverain Holland and Holland, and Jorn actually partnered with historic shotgun manufacturer Holland and Holland, and they took two barrels from vintage shotguns. I believe one was from 1880 and the other was from 1860 or something like that. And they actually cut basically slices of the barrel, and then they used those slices to create the actual dials for these pieces. So it's Damascus steel, I believe.
Right.
and
It's
they
like an acid etched Damascus, and the patterns
It's
are very
unbelievable. If you guys should, if you haven't ever seen one, Google FP Jorn Holland and Holland and check
Yeah.
it out. Or even better, photographer David just pointed out, go to our blog. You can get to it through our website, The Collective, and we have an awesome write-up about the last time we had a Holland and Holland with some incredible photography.
We've only
So
had, what, 2?
I think we've had 2, yeah. All right, here you go. Show that guy off. So here you go, classic Zeitwerk. Let me see where this is sitting on our website, what the dealio is with this one.
These are a good price right now.
So this is in stock and available. So we have this piece for $68.5 right now, which for what this is absolutely incredible. You know, that digital display. Go ahead.
I pose a question to those of you out there.
Okay.
We constantly get, whenever we have a Zeitwerk, we constantly get the question of, does this have the updated caliber?
Oh my gosh.
As far as I know, the biggest difference with the updated caliber is that the time change is instantaneous.
Correct.
Whereas on this one, if I leave it here long enough, you will actually see it. Does it have a wind? Yeah, it's running.
Yeah,
It will kind of like preload, it'll gunk, and then 5 seconds later, junk, it clicks its way through. There's a great photo of this somewhere on the internet with like the dial off, and the size of these rings are massive. Like, this watch fascinates me. I was talking with the watchmaker about it in terms of the power distribution.
Yep.
There's a remontoire system because apparently the power needed to move these enormous wheels that carry the time.
Well, it's not even the power; it's the torque. It's the,
Right. There's so much power running through it that if that was running through the watch all the time, it would shred the escapement.
Right.
So there's a remontoire that controls the power release for the normal timekeeping, and then once a minute, the remontoire releases, and it changes everything over, and then it goes back to holding back the power. And it's like,
did you show off the movement to the?
no, not yet.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like
I guess
all,
you want to see the movement.
like all Longa movements, it's
Guess you wanna
it's
see
stunning.
the
It's a
movement.
really impressive piece. So the giveaway for the updated movement is the anchor style.
Well, on the newest ones, the anchor is straight. That bridge that looks like an anchor runs straight through the watch. But there are some versions of this caliber where it still has the
Well, that was the right. There was like the
curved
final
anchor,
year.
but it's got the updated movement. So I have now lost the train. But my question to you, the good people of the internet, is: do you care about that? Is that something that would influence one way or the other whether you buy a Zeitwerk, or are you in the camp of this watch is so incredibly cool that I don't mind either way? Because for me, especially this version, white gold black dial, that's the one.
It's it is the one. It is
That
the
is the Zeitwerk.
the classic Zeitwerk. I mean, again, I feel like every week we kind of like fall into this where, you know, you're talking about details and I'm talking about like overall vibe and feel, and just like I love the history of this watch and the story of the
whole opera
inspiration
clock thing and all that.
Yeah, so it's inspired by a clock in the Semper Opera House in Dresden, Germany, that was designed by the original Longa essentially, and it was a digital clock that was basically, you know, was in the 19th century, and the owner of the opera house wanted his patrons to be able to know what time it was without having to take a pocket watch out of their pocket and either chime it if it was a repeater, or, you know, try and fumble around to see it in a dark theater. So if you look up, you know, Semper Opera House in Dresden, Germany, you're going to see a clock that looks like exactly like the dial of the Zeitwerk. It's just, you know, it's so interesting to see that this exact concept was already, you know, developed and in place in the mid to late 19th century, and then, you know, Longa came along and obviously created this piece in, you know, whatever year it was, to make it into a wristwatch. So just super interesting piece, like tons of history. It's so unique. It's so different. I wish I had bigger wrists and could actually wear it, but
That is the one downside, right? Is that this watch is not small. And because of what's going on inside of this watch, you do get some considerable kind of thickness on there. And Longa, with these Teutonic cases, they're very squared off. They're very kind of like, it's very German,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
So it definitely has a taller feel on the wrist, and it's not lightweight either, because you've got an awful lot of precious metal, whether it be gold or platinum, and you've got the German silver movement, which is quite dense too. To me, I would I would make said sacrifice were I to be able to own one of these.
Have your cuffs designed so they're a little bit looser on the left hand side.
You'd need that watch allowance. Yeah,
You
when
would,
you order
for
your
real.
shirts, you'd have to put in a little watch allowance there.
So
But-
Hyrax says not really that the Zeitwerk is a grail for him. Totally agree.
Yeah.
And Horological Habitat says updated movement is critical from his perspective. So
Interesting.
You know,
And we have a comment on YouTube about this.
let's
too.
see
It
what do we
says,
got, Craig.
Victor Sona says maybe if someone's looking to buy it for investment long term, I can see them wanting the updated caliber.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's a consideration, but
I don't know. I mean, it's just, to me, it's very fascinating because we have so many customers who ask us that question. Every time we list a Zeitwerk, I have at least one or two inquiries come in where it's like, does this have the updated caliber?
right, every time, it never fails.
And yeah, and to me, but I'm also, we all know that for me, the accuracy and the, like, those kind of things are less important than
Same.
the aesthetic
Of
and
course.
like the whether or not I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll put up with almost anything.
Yeah, my tolerance is wide.
Yeah, I have some vintage pieces that barely run, but I like the way they look, so I still
Yeah.
wear them. All right, cool. If you guys have any other pieces that you want to see, feel free to drop us a comment. We'd love to get Craig running around and grab some more. But we'll move on to our next piece now.
I'm gonna pop two here.
Oh, I actually like this comparison. Good idea.
I'm gonna pop two here because I think it's not direct, but I think it's close enough. If I do it like so, I think both cameras can see. But I think it's close enough that it begs to be put next to each other.
Sure. So
juxtaposed.
There
if
you go.
will.
So on one side we have the Patek 3970 in rose gold. This is a second series piece, so it has the first series had that snap-on case back. This has a screw-down case back. And then on the other side, there is a JLC Master Control ultra-thin perpetual calendar. So like, not quite opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to price, but two completely different price points in the world of perpetual calendars. So,
So 3970.
yeah.
A couple things about the second series for those of you who are like, what are they talking about? Both the 3970 and the 3940 were Patek's initial serially produced offerings that had a perpetual calendar in them. So we get different series as different parts are made during the production, and we get a little bit of bleed and crossover there. So you will see some kind of transitional things like you do with vintage Rolex. What makes the second series so nice is, or at least distinctive and special, is you'll have the hallmarks on the side of the lug instead of on the back, which you see with the later third and fourth series. And in this case, you have the flat hour markers where these are just a baton. We don't have the darts on these yet. And to me, it's a small detail, but when we're talking about things on such a small scale, I think it's actually a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a big
difference.
difference.
It really changes the feel of this watch. I love the proportions of this case.
I think we talked about it last week. The 3970 is kind of perfection, in my opinion, when it comes to high quality, Patek perpetuals. Yeah, we'll take that in a minute, Zach. Thank you. So second series was, I believe, from 86 to 91. I think there were only like 650 total pieces across all metals, and they did make it in platinum, white gold, rose, and yellow. So not a whole lot of pieces out there, but just it's such a good piece. What are the dimensions, Rob?
I thought it was a 36 or a 37.
36. Sorry. So 36 and 12.9
But what a
millimeters
different
thick.
36. Like if you compare this to a 3940,
Yeah.
it's like you would think this is a 37 or a 38 just
Right.
because of the way the thickness and the shape of the case makes it feel different. I love the no scales, like the
Me too.
openness of the dial.
It has a much more classic feel to it. I think with the scales, it gets a little cluttered. It gets a little. There's just a little bit too much
It's
going
busier.
on. It's busier.
It's busier,
exactly.
right? And some people really like that, which is why the 5970 is such a popular watch. But I really like the dimensions of this. I love how the moon phase and that date wheel seems very oversized
Yeah.
in this watch, simply because of the relationship of everything else. It's probably the same exact
real
size
estate.
that it is on a
It
5970.
definitely is the same size, but there's just less real estate, so it appears so much larger to the eye.
This one also has the serif like typewriter
Yeah,
font
yeah.
for the day
Yeah.
and the month, which to me is bangers.
It's great.
I love it.
And I think
I really like it.
You know, I think did we talk about a 3970?
Tang buckle on this one,
As opposed to deploy, so much
which
better.
is correct
So much
for
better.
a second series because they didn't start doing deploys, and they also many people will be like, why is it a solid back? These were solid back until the third series.
Well,
Unless,
so the second series you could request a display back,
and
which
there was also that very brief moment of 3971.
yes, there was.
Yes.
Yeah. But so values on these are really kind of they're on the rise. I mean, just in the time that you and I have been doing this, we've seen them increase dramatically. Actually, this is available on our website right now. We're asking $149.9.
And this is a nice full set.
Beautiful full set. Yeah, and it's just a gorgeous piece. Like Rob said, you know, nice hallmarks on the lugs. Just, you know, great condition. Just really incredible look to it in that rose gold. But again, like 5-6 years ago.
When I first
they were
started
well
here,
under 100.
the only two like really expensive watches that we had were two 3970s, and they were like just languishing in the safe. We had a yellow and a rose, and I don't think we saw both were complete. Both were good examples. And I think they finally sold when we were like in the 70s. And even back then, it kind of hurt my soul because I was like, man, this is like one of the nicest watches I've ever handled at that point. It was like, man, this is incredible.
JJ Schapp is asking, Rob, can you zoom in a little bit on the dial and the lugs just to kind of show it off? I think we may
Is
have
that
just
on
lost
Instagram? We lost our YouTube
David, we
overhead,
lost our
which
YouTube
is
overhead.
okay. I'm going to try to get close. I can't really see what I'm doing on Instagram.
We're trying to get
because
that
it's-
for you.
so
JJ
tell
Sapp
me if
says
you
that the
can
second
see.
series is his favorite iteration, and I'm inclined to agree. You know, first series is
that worked out.
almost unobtainable. You know, these
A
are
first, like a true first series?
yeah,
That true, like solid snapback first series
right. It's a
are hen's teeth
Exactly.
and tremendously expensive.
right.
When you get into like the transitionals, when you start getting the screwed back in the
Mm-hmm.
second series like this, they're a little bit more attainable. But yeah,
Well, they're just out there. You know what I mean? They actually trade hands. Yeah, they're incredible.
So, say you love this. You're like, man, I love a complicated watch. I really want. I don't have it.
There it is. We're good.
Oh, it's back.
We're back.
Am I here? Is my switch
You're good.
on a delay?
You're good.
No, I'm
No,
good.
you're good.
Sorry, YouTube. Motion sickness time. So you love this. You want a complicated watch, but you know you're 100K short or something like that.
Well, you're you or me.
Right. You're looking for a more mortal watch.
Yeah.
This is probably one of my favorite things in terms of like a complicated watch that is more accessible.
It's totally accessible.
This is the Jaeger Ultra Thin Perpetual in steel.
Yeah, which honestly is super cool in and of itself. To have a steel perpetual calendar is, you know, if you were looking at Paddock perpetuals in steel, I mean, good luck. Like, I hope you have a trust fund, you know. So to have this piece available, you know, for mid-teens, I think the retail on this was around 19,000, and you know, they sell on the secondary market for under that. So you know, for 15 to 18K to be able to have a perpetual calendar is pretty incredible. You know, 39 millimeter case, sits really nicely. It's got those short lugs again, like we talked about. You know, super legible actually for what it is. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean that's class.
Pure class.
Class.
Such a nice piece.
Yeah, and if you think about perpetuals in steel, you have JLC.
Mm-hmm.
You have Glasuta.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even count that.
Who else do you have? Who, like, say you're looking for this. Who else makes a perpetual calendar in steel?
Frederick Constant.
Craig says Frederic Constant.
So,
we're
everything
gonna
else
ignore that.
to me is not on the same level as this.
No.
Oh, Blancpain maybe.
Oh, Blancpain does, yes.
Blancpain. You could find, but I don't know if they currently make anything. I know there's some old, like, Villeray perpetuals in steel that, again, can be very accessible. There's some really great perpetual calendar chronos from, like,
Super
you know,
reasonably priced as well.
that same, like, 2000 to 2007 kind of time period when you would get like a Villeray perpetual calendar chrono, and you can get those for like a
So I mean, again on this too, like you have that four digit year on there. Like it's I don't know. It's so much bang for buck.
Yes, and the thing with a 4-digit year, when you have that, that means that everything is pre-programmed into this watch.
Right.
So this is as close to the foolproof perpetual as you can get. So this watch, everything is set and loaded, and you just have to make sure you don't go too far when you're setting it. Because if you go past the date, there's no going back. You just have to wait till the real world catches up with your watch.
Goofy's
I
World
feel like
says that these pieces are real mechanical works of art, and we agree with you.
Oh
They're,
yeah, and I mean,
they're stunning.
this is what, 10 mil or something?
Thick.
This because it is an ultra thin. So to
I
get
don't
an automatic perpetual with a full rotor, it's not even a micro rotor, to be like this thickness. Yeah, and the yellow moon really wins it for me because sometimes
Well,
when
that's
you
like
get
really
a
the
steel,
one thing you see on that dial. You know,
Yeah.
from like in that.
when you get a steel or a white gold watch, they'll
Mm-hmm.
often do a white metal moon, but this has the yellow moon against this black dial. And it has a blue sky, but it's not super. There you go. You get it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Tough
is
to
just
beat. Really, really hard to beat.
at the price point that these guys trade at.
Mhm.
This is a monster watch. You considered one.
So, I didn't know if I was going to bring that up or not. So
Well,
this is several.
forced your hand.
A couple years ago, we had one of these in stock or coming in, and I was getting itchy with my collection where I wanted to do something. I wanted to try something different.
You
and I
live in a state of itchiness.
I know I do. We both do. We're constantly looking for David. That has nothing to do with the rash. Just let it go. Let it go. But no, really. We see these fairly regularly. Really nice example, full set. And I was itchy, so I decided, what the hell? I'll do it. I'll trade a bunch of stuff, and I'll trade something, and I'll get that. And as much as I loved it in theory, and I love looking at it, I love handling it, I didn't love owning it. I just didn't connect with the piece, and I believe I traded my Speedmaster Moon, my vintage Speedy Moon, and I just did a 1-for-1. I had a vintage Speedy Moon full set, like super cool, very rare. I think it was like 1,600 pieces, box papers, everything.
The real one with the plastic
real
crystal.
one with the-
yeah,
with the
because they
plastic
do a
crystal,
modern
right.
version of that with the sapphire, and if you're a nut like us, it's not
Yeah,
as
no, it's not
good
even
with the
close to as good.
sapphire crystal. It
Yeah.
needs the plastic.
The old school janky bracelet and everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I traded that, and that was on a Friday, and I wore the JLC home. I took it off my wrist when I got home, and I put it on my dresser, and I didn't pick it back up again until Monday morning. And I was never, even when I was getting dressed to come to work in a suit on Monday, I just didn't. I wasn't excited by going to my watch box and pulling that out. So and it's no shots at this piece because it is an absolutely incredible piece. It's an amazing watch for the money. Easily could sell for more. It's a really special piece, but I don't know. It just like for whatever reason I didn't connect with it, so I undid that deal, and then I ended up trading that Speedmaster.
Which,
for
as
something
you and I
else.
have said before, that is the most important aspect of this to me. We spend a lot of our day talking with customers and talking about value and price, and we get a lot of will this hold? Will this go up? Do you
Right.
think now's the right time to trade? Should I trade this? Should I get it? And you can't ignore all of that at the level in which these watches exist.
Sure.
But I think at the end of the day, if you're truly doing this for the love of this hobby and for the mechanical wonders that these things are, if it doesn't give you that fizz, then I don't know. Maybe it's not the right watch for you.
It
Right?
clearly wasn't. I think I was more enamored with the idea of having a perpetual calendar than getting the right watch. And thankfully, I work in a place where I'm able to to figure that out. You know what I mean, and have it not
It is a perk.
not
It is a
bankrupt
perk.
me. Before we go to that, someone asked if we could show them this rose gold tank chinois.
Because we
Let me
mentioned this one.
find. We did actually. Let me
gonna
find
move
who this was because I want
The
to
Hector.
let them know.
Look at the number on it.
Yeah, give them the details,
I'll show,
Rob.
look, you can see it on the tag.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iraq S. So yes, here you go. This is that limited edition tank chinois. I'm gonna pull up the details while Rob shows it off real quick.
So this is the rose gold, and this, of course, is the modern collection privé. So these are really different from the old ones in that the dials here have a very different kind of feel than the old ones did. The old ones were almost always the guilloche. They had that central rosette that's very idiosyncratic of like the CPCP.
Distinctive CPCP, yes, that central rosette.
But now you get these metallic dials with the black Romans, and for me, set off against the rose gold and with the gray straps that they pair it with, I like it a lot. I think they did a really nice job.
It is.
It's big. It's bigger than
and
the
that's
old
what I was
going
gonna
to
say. So this is, so obviously rectangular pieces, it's a little bit more difficult to give you, exact specs, but it's roughly, so it's 39.5 by 29, roughly. And it is quite thin, it's only six millimeters thick, but it's quite a large piece on the wrist, even though it is, a slim watch. This one, is available online right now for $19.9. I believe retail was around $30, so quite a good deal if you ask me.
This is one of those things. If I didn't have the trapeze, I probably would go in for something like this.
Would you really?
Yeah, I mean it's that same kind of vibe of like it's a little bit wonky, it's a little bit strange. It's not your standard tank, but it's also not so far away from it. Like, we had that Dubuis Golden Square for a while, and we've had some of the much mores, which have an incredible style to them.
They do.
They're so vibey. But you put them on the wrist, and they lose that elegance, and the thinness of this and the elegance of this is just, it's a home run.
Well, again,
the cabochon on the crown.
Any Cartier CPCP or, new Privé release is just pure class.
I love that they've gone back to tang buckles. They've gone back to the old school tang, which to me, again, is like, it's Cartier leaning into where they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is the right place for them.
Yeah.
This is a very cool addition. And the prices of these are super reasonable right now.
That's what I just said. I think we're at $19.9. Retail is
That's
32,
nuts.
33, something like that.
Yeah.
So just really, really, it's so much design and so much just class and quality for the money when you compare it to
and history.
right?
And history.
Right. Well, I'm trying to remember what.
It's 150 out of 150.
No way.
This is the last one.
Let me see. I didn't know that.
That is the final countdown.
Holy crap! That's so cool. It's so funny. We have so many limited pieces in stock, and we see them come through all the time. And we always have people asking us like, what number is it?
Yeah,
because
which number
people
is
have
it?
crazy numbers or whatever. And I don't think I've ever seen one that I've been like excited by, but it's actually kind of cool to have the very last one ever made. Like, I mean, Albert, the owner has, a number, number one Blancpain, like, insane, piece. But this is really cool. So if you want the last one ever made, here you go.
And probably ever.
Yeah.
At least in terms of this iteration. Like,
oh, yeah.
I think it's pretty clear that Cartier is not going to be doing any of these CPCP things as standard runs. You're not going to see a cloche or a chinois or a...
they would be crazy to do that.
You're not going to see any of those as like a steel standard kind of thing. So I think it is kind of cool. So let's finish off because we are getting into the home stretch here with a brand that we really haven't had very much of. This is
I'm pulling up my notes because I think we've had a grand total of like 3 of these.
I won 2.
Maybe this is the second.
We had
the Gayor.
Was it the Gayor? It was the square one.
Okay, so this is the Langenhain Hector.
I'm glad you said that because I didn't know how to say that second name. That could go wrong.
So going to my handy dandy notes here. So Langenhain is a fairly young independent brand, German brand. Founded in 2001. They were founded by Marco Lang, who is a 5th generation watchmaker, and Mirko Hein, I believe.
Look at that bracelet. That's nice.
Yeah, so they're based outside of Dresden. This is a limited... I'm pretty sure all their pieces, all their models are limited edition pieces. The Hector was 99 pieces total. They did 33 with a gray dial, 33 with a blue dial, and 33 with a green dial. So this is the gray, the gray steel. So can you show off that movement?
I'm trying. The bracelet watches are always tough, but is it up yet?
What's that?
Is this up? I don't think.
No, this is coming soon.
Actually, this might have just got priced today. So this might be on the website, and then you can see this movement in all its glory. It's again very traditional, but the layout of it is kind of unique and different, and I think it's actually really nicely done, and it's an interesting mix of like parts that are finished and parts that have kind of this more industrial, almost kind of raw finish to them, where it's not like the uber fine kind of like uber decorated kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not over decorated, but I agree. It kind of has that distinctive, independent kind of like feeling it out kind of layout. So manual wind. Let's see, what else can I tell you?
It looks like a lot of the stuff now that where they're going for that almost handmade-ish kind of look, like with the pinnacle obviously being that Grubel that's like handmade from start to finish.
Yeah.
And you look at that, and because of the nature of that, where they're saying we're only doing this with hand tools, you don't have super elaborate guilloche or even Geneva stripes and stuff like that. And this to me kind of brings that in, not quite on that level, of course, but it's a very cool way to get to that.
So Horological Habitat says that it gives him Royal Oak vibes, and you're not wrong. It has it's an integrated sports, an integrated bracelet, multi-link bracelet. See if you can kind of, yeah, there you go. I mean, obviously it's a much different case shape, but that integrated bracelet. It is.
But again, as I often
mil.
say, I really appreciate the fact that this doesn't feel derivative. Like, this doesn't feel like they looked at a Patek Nautilus or a Royal Oak and said, okay, I'm going to make something that's really, really close, but like slightly different. This feels new to me.
It doesn't even look anything like any of the other German brands, per se. You have that aperture at just above 6 o'clock. See if you can show it, Rob, where it shows off, a little bit of the movement there.
You get a little bit of the running train through that kind of trapezoidal.
It's not. I don't even know what the shape is. It's it's real funky. You're right. It really looks like nothing else. So sorry. Back to the details on that. So manual wind, 48-hour power reserve with hacking seconds. Like again, it's a lot of watch.
Yep. Stop.
Yeah. Hey, it works. Good. That would have been a problem if it didn't.
Onion crown. A very comfortable bracelet too. Like, it's got a good bit of flex and flow to it. It sits nice on the wrist.
Also, they give you a ton of links from factory. Do you see how big that thing is?
It's really big.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's really big.
This is actually incoming on our website right now, asking $27,500. So again, for an interesting kind of unique independent, it's a lot of watch for the money again. So there's right now, kind of we're in an interesting time where there are a lot of deals to be had when it comes to pieces that they may have been brands that were independents that were hyped a little bit over this last year or two. When everybody's kind of moving back towards the established Trinity brands, or just the real historic houses. These pieces from companies that are either younger or just not as well known. There's a lot of there's a lot of watch to be had, or a lot of watches to be had at very reasonable prices. So
yeah. Very much so, and really interesting offerings as well. And I think the greatest thing about what we do is the breadth of what's out there, and how we can sit here with this tray that goes from an AP with all of the complications to a Cartier with not even a second hand, but that is almost unparalleled in terms of just coolness and vibe.
Yep.
And it's like, there's really is something for everybody.
Absolutely. So that pretty much wraps it up for us, you guys. Thank you so much for all the questions. We really appreciate you guys, asking us to see things, to, interacting. It's kind of the best part of our week when we do these things. So thank you guys.
That's exactly what we want to do, is we want to be accessible to you. So this is the time when if there's things you want to see or questions you've always wanted to ask, hit us up. We'll be back next week.
Oh man, we got a lot of questions on the Instagram. Damn, sorry. On the YouTube.
No, we're good. I've been watching it.
Oh, you have?
We've been covered. And somebody did ask, are we streaming tomorrow at 5 p.m.? We are not. We are trying this out on Thursdays, too. As we were getting this ramped up, we wanted to see Friday versus Thursday, how it works out, hoping that maybe some more people haven't quite escaped for the weekend yet and would be willing to hang out with us for an hour. So we appreciate you being here. We hope you're keeping track of our YouTube and our Instagram channels. We do have some more content rolling out. We have some YouTube videos in process that'll be posting real soon. And as always, all of our inventory is available on the website with the highest quality photos on the market. For anything that you saw here that you didn't see, like, oh, I wish I could have looked at that movement more, please check out the website and feel free to reach out anytime. We're always here.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Happy weekend.
It's not the weekend yet, Robert.
It's not the weekend.